He was destroyed and left for dead.
I'm your number one fan.
That way we don't do anything right now.
I'm not kidding, Shane. This area is like a war zone. I mean, drug dealers, gang fights.
Well, next time I'll tell the temp service to send us to Beverly Hills, okay?
Orville Ketchum's a guy that was involved in that sorority house massacre a few months ago.
I heard he tried to rescue those girls.
Yeah, it's gotta be the same guy. How many Orville Ketchums can there be? That guy's a certified grade A psycho.
Why don't we count the rest of this stuff upstairs and do the inventory in the office?
That's a lot of extra work.
It'll be worth it to get out of this hellhole.
He was on the verge of splitting his own soul into 3 parts, an unheard of practice.
You can't be serious.
Deadly serious, Miss Shawley. And if one of those boxes is ever opened again, the evil spirit can escape into the world and inhabit anybody it pleases.
Hi, I'm Spice Williams Crosby from Fatal Games, and you are listening to Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to the Hysteria Continues, episode 123, 123 episodes we've done so far, or about to do the 123rd. And we're going to be going up, skyrocketing to into the clouds with Hard to Die. Scantily clad ladies with big boobies and machine guns battling demons in a kind of slasher-esque homage, I kind of guess is a good way to describe it. But this is one of Nathan's picks. Nathan, so are you proud of yourself?
This is one of the most brilliant films that I've ever chosen for the podcast, so yes.
Well, there you go. We'll be back to listener picks after this one, and we'll be telling you what we're going to be going back to next time, but at the end of the show. But before we do that, Nathan, anyway, how are you doing on this fine day?
I'm doing very well, just aside from the usual allergy issues.
Oh, so your head's not any better?
Yeah, it's congestion mostly.
Okay. Well, hopefully you'll. How long? We spoke about that before, haven't we? The allergy season is upon us, isn't it?
Yeah, and they said this is the worst one in a long time, so
Gosh.
I believe it.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear that. But Erik, are you allergic to anything?
Plasters.
Are you?
Yeah.
Really? So what do you?
The adhesive on them makes me break out in a rash. Yeah.
Gosh, so what do you put on a wound?
You can get special non-allergic ones, but they don't stick very well.
That gives me
you do the washing up and the plaster comes off your hand kind of type thing. So.
Right, okay. Well, that kind of gives me an idea. If we ever did do a slash movie version of the show, then the killer could bump you off with plasters, wrap your head to toe.
I don't think
plasters.
I'd die from plasters.
Well, you might do if you have the whole lot, the whole body wrapped in plasters, like is it Dr. No in that woman's
Goldfinger?
Goldfinger, yeah. But, okay, well, Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm okay, how are you?
I'm not too bad. It's almost like it's summer-esque here.
It's summer-esque here as well.
Is it? Yes.
Well, it's very hot here, and last night our air conditioner decided to go out, so I have to call my super sometime today to hopefully get it fixed, because there's no way I'm going to deal with this with a 90-degree weather.
Ooh, okay. Wow. So you're going to strip down to your lingerie, do you think?
Oh, I already am, baby.
Well, yes, well, we'll be coming on to the Hard to Die a little bit later. But before we do that, what?
Hard to Die.
Coming on to it.
Well, it lends itself to the kind of double entendres, really, doesn't it? But
it does.
Oh, somebody's pinging in the background.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a program running on the background. Sorry,
that's
on my computer.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. Sex. You've been watching sex, Erik. What kind of sex have you been watching?
Say, let's talk about sex. Like Salt and Pepper.
Baby, let's talk about you and me, Erik.
Well, Erik, what have you been watching recently?
Okay, well, the only horror movie I watched really was Dead Snow, which I'd never seen before. It's a Norwegian 2009 Nazi zombie movie. I don't recall it getting brilliant reviews, so it's one I never sought out. But I did pick up the DVD for £1, sterling a couple of months ago. It was on sale with no sleeve or anything. So I was watching that for the first time last night. Pleasantly surprised. I found it really entertaining, really great fun. Very much a Norwegian version of Evil Dead. It's 7 people in a cabin in the snowy wilderness of Norway. Very, very gory once it gets going. You have people with getting their eyeballs gouged out, and one character slices off his arm with a chainsaw at one stage in a homage to Evil Dead 2, I reckon. I found the whole thing just hugely entertaining. And by far the most entertaining movie I've watched this week, Nathan. I
think that is horrible.
What?
Like you're totally like making fun of Hard to Die there. Don't think I can't read between those lines.
I might have watched Hard to Die last week. It mightn't have been this week. So I'm just saying. It might be.
Well, you singled me out. It's the best movie I watched this week, Nathan.
There's a great subversive. It subverts the tropes of the genre by having the big fat schlubby guy who's into horror movies getting off with the hottest chick in the cabin. They have sex in the toilet, which is unusual for the genre. Not saying I don't like that. I want to have sex myself because I'm a fat schlubby guy who likes horror movies. I don't want to have sex with hot chicks in toilets. So, but I just like the idea that if I was that way inclined, that would be available to me.
Now, would you have sex with a toilet, Eric?
I think I might.
A flushing toilet with a cat on it.
Oh, that's really turning me on, Joseph.
Oh, Erik, calm down.
Yeah. So I'm not actually. It's incredibly well made. I don't know what the budget was, but I imagine it was low. But it looks really, really good. I'm not surprised the director was pilfered by Hollywood. He did Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, which was a decent enough movie. I mean, there's that whole subgenre of fairy tales made into sort of more adult horror movies that's come out in recent years, and I thought that was a pretty decent one. I mean, it's not an essential watch by any means, but I was really impressed with Dead Snow. So I'm probably going to seek out Dead Snow 2. Red and Dead, is that what it's called? Something like that.
It's good. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Sorry?
Red Snow 2 is quite entertaining as well.
Is it? Yeah. What, did you like the first one?
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised at how entertaining it was because, as I said, it didn't come with a great sort of flurry of brilliant reviews behind it, as far as I remember anyway. I mean, I remember people saying that it was decent, but I don't remember anyone saying it was brilliant, and so I was quite surprised by how good it was.
Yeah, well, Dead Snow 2 is kind of slightly more expansive in so much I think it's got a bigger budget and there's kind of more mayhem. So it's just like bigger in every way, really. We've got like Nazis and tanks destroying towns, that type of thing.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. No.
So that's the only horror I watched this week, I'm afraid. Well, apart from another one, yeah.
Well, we shall come on to that in a little bit. So, Joseph, how about you?
I've not really watched anything this week, unfortunately. Although I have seen Dead Snow, and I liked it a lot. I haven't seen the second one. I keep meaning to because I love the first one so much. But no, unfortunately, my horror movie habits this week have been kind of nil.
I think Dead Snow was on Netflix USA, but I've just discovered that, well, my friend who has a VPN device on his iPad has discovered that he can no longer access Netflix USA, unfortunately.
Well, my friend has, I think that's a common problem, isn't it? Apparently, with people who try and do that. Yes.
Yeah, so my friend is thinking of cancelling Netflix because my friend says that there's not a huge selection on the UK store that's worth, subscribing to. And my friend says they might just go back to good old-fashioned piracy.
Really?
That's what my friend says.
That's outrageous. I'd report your friend to the MPAA.
But I would, except he's really, really sexy and has a big willy. So I probably won't because he's really nice as well.
Oh, Erik, you're like a gangster's mole.
Speaking of piracy, as an aside, I got a letter in the mail from EPB, which is our internet provider, saying that someone at my house had downloaded something, and I guess the distributor wasn't too pleased. So I got to looking into it, and it was Law and Order SVU, and I'm like, what? I've never even watched that show. So I think maybe someone had got onto my Wi-Fi, so I had to lock it down. I thought it was going to be something like, hey, someone downloaded Island of Blood, and they're not too fond of that. Law and Order. I've never seen Law and Order.
Yeah.
Do you know is your Wi-Fi not password protected?
Oh, it is. I mean, it was locked down, but people are so crafty these days. I had to take like extra measures just to make sure no one could get on it.
Absolute little minxes out there who'll just steal your Wi-Fi password.
Yeah.
No, you have to be careful. So they're not going to pursue you for like $10 million.
No, I told them. I actually had like physical proof and everything that that I didn't do it and all that stuff. So they said, we'll look into it.
How can you physically prove you didn't do it?
Because according to the statement, it has the IP address where it was downloaded and the time. And at that time, I was at work, and the last 2 digits of the IP address did not match mine. So they made a mistake, but they think someone still might have been using my Wi-Fi password. So I took extra preventative measures to make sure it didn't happen again. I mean, if you're going to download something off my Wi-Fi, do something better than Law and Order SVU.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So that's the latest of the Hysteria Continues piracy debates, the mass debate we've been having. But thank you, Joseph. Nathan, how about you?
I saw the Vivitch, a.k.a. The Witch.
Oh, and?
It was probably like about, I'd say, 30 minutes into the film, and I started to think, I'm so bored. I don't know what the fuss is about. Like, I was ready to turn it off. I was just getting that bored. But then I started getting really into the storyline, and by the end of the movie, I really, really liked it. I thought it was actually really good, but it's definitely a slow burner. So I say that if people are interested, stick with it. Don't give up, because I mean I was just not really into it until probably about the midway point till the end. I mean, then it got really, really good. So I really liked it. I thought that it was different, and it was one of those films that I actually discussed with Wes at length after it was over, and we had our own different interpretations of it, which actually made for a fun discussion. So
have an Algonquin round table discussion.
Yeah, I miss those for this show. Actually, I need to come up with another question maybe for our next show or something. I'll have to think about it. But yes, we did.
Excellent. Well, we've talked about that at quite some length, haven't we, on the show? The Witch. I think we've all seen it now.
Yeah, I just now got caught up with it.
Okay.
I've not seen it yet.
Oh, you've not?
I may watch that this week. No, not yet.
I'd like to re-watch it, because I think, like I said before, the expectations would be different with a re-watch, but I wasn't...
Is it on demand, Nathan?
Yeah, but it's on demand. No, I mean, I don't. I'm not good at getting the films. I always ask Joe to get them for me. But I went to Grant's actually, and he rented it on Comcast on demand.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I got it at.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you, Nathan. Anything else?
No, but I will say I have seen Dead Snow, and it's really good, but it's no hard to tie. Let's just be honest.
Well, I'll give you that. It's true. That's true.
Not much is.
It's been said.
It's going to be interesting to see the messy split in the group, isn't it?
Yes, it's going to be fun. But I have a story about Hard to Die, and it might change your minds, but I'll tell you after I get all the opinions about it.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Just a couple of things that I've seen. I saw a film called The Forgotten, which isn't the one with Julianne Moore from 2004, but this is a low-budget British one, which reminded me, I don't know if you ever read, Erik, have you read the Books of Blood by Clive Barker?
I have, yes.
You know The Forbidden, because that was the one that was
Candyman.
Candyman's based on, isn't it? So this is kind of very similar to that. It's called The Forgotten. It's set in a council, well, not a council estate, but like a tower block, which is derelict, and a single father and his teenage son kind of move into one of the empty apartments because he's going through the house and they're illegally stealing the copper from all the other empty apartments. And where the son's staying, he can hear somebody behind the walls and sort of noises, and he's gets bullied in the estate, and he kind of befriends this girl kind of befriends him, and they're trying to find out what's causing these strange noises. It's quite good. It's worth a watch. It's quite a slow burn. It's quite creepy. Not brilliant, but it's it was. I thought it was quite effective. Is that one you've heard of, Erik?
No, haven't heard of it, I'm afraid.
No. That's okay. I'm sure you guys probably haven't heard it in the States. It's probably been released over there. It's kind of a very British, kind of low-budget film.
No, but
No.
I like the idea of, oh no, the echo.
It's back.
And we're back without the echo, hopefully. So, sorry, Joseph, you were saying...
Oh, I was just talking about the Forgotten. I like the idea of hearing something behind the walls that really worked well in Candyman when Ruthie Jean was talking about the story. So I'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah, it's worth a watch, definitely. Something I saw which is kind of polar opposite. I picked up the Scream Factory release of The Howling 2.
Yes.
Your Sister is a Werewolf, or Sturber She-Wolf Bitch, or whatever it was, but which I've grown to appreciate and love The Howling 2. It's kind of not, it's really shit, but it's very fun movie.
It is really shit, but brilliant.
Yeah. And as we know that Susie and the Banshees turned down the they were offered to be the live band in the kind of the goth club, and they turned it down. Although
shouldn't she have taken all the work she could get?
Yeah, I thought she would have to.
She didn't need it. She didn't need it. You can see Toya in the background cleaning the toilets, but
shag off, you little whore of Babylon.
Using her hair as a bog brush.
Shut up.
Well, actually, talking of Toya, because funnily enough, it's an aside. Top of the Pops.
What are you going to say now? Yes.
No, Top of the Pops were if you're not a British listener, Top of the Pops was like a weekly chart show that was on the BBC One about 7:00 on a Thursday night, or whichever night it was. And they're in 1981 at the moment. Of course, that was the height of Susan the Banshees and Toya's chart success, really, wasn't it, Erik? I think it's fair to say.
I would say so.
And so the last 2 weeks, both Toya and Susie, although the creatures have been on both episodes, haven't they? And the one I've just seen is the one with the Toya being Bodicea or Boudica on the back of the chariot.
Yes.
Which is the kind of Mad Max. Was that pre-Mad Max or was that Mad Max?
It was pre-Road Warrior, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But her hair, how does she get her hair so big?
It's probably a wig.
Do you think it's a wig? It probably is a wig.
I think it must be a wig, yeah.
It's the biggest...
It's too outrageoely big hair, yeah.
It's the biggest hair I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's kind of big and fantastic.
It's big and ginger, and I love because there's in that video there's an old man putting his hands over his ears, isn't he? Which I thought was a nice touch.
Yeah, because he's listening to Susie record. I
know he's listening to the ginger gonk on the back of a chariot.
She's not a ginger gonk.
I think she is, Erik. Anyway, enough of Toya and Susie. Our listeners don't want to listen to you prattling on about that, Erik.
Yeah, this will be the last episode we talk about him.
yeah, we promise. After 123 weeks.
Well, actually, Joseph, you did mention, didn't you, that Susie was trending on Facebook the other day?
Yeah, so, for her birthday, it was a trending topic on Facebook.
Yeah, I did search for Toya, but I couldn't see her anywhere. But anyway,
she's all over the internet. I think you'll find. If you type in "Celebrity Cash in the Attic" or "Celebrity Antiques Road Trip," and you'll find her.
Okay, right. Well, we'll do that afterwards.
Can I just mention Halloween news?
Oh. What is
the Halloween news?
Oh, the Halloween news about John Carpenter.
Blumhouse are going to reboot it yet again, but this time with John Carpenter as a producer and a creative consultant.
Yes, which will be interesting.
So it's been taken out of the hands of Rob Zombie. Hallelujah.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how good. John Carpenter's output in his latter years wasn't spectacular, in my opinion. So I don't know if this is going to be the Halloween movie we're waiting for, but it can only be an improvement on the last couple. So.
Yeah, I was kind of a bit sort of, well, it'd be interesting to see because I'm kind of hoping John Carpenter's coming back to it for the right reasons rather than he's had a load of cash waved in front of his face. I don't know, but as because they're getting Mike Flanagan to direct it, aren't they, supposedly?
Oh, yeah.
Who did Hush and also Ascensia and Oculus.
Yeah.
So, which I think could be, they're all kind of good films, although Hush was a little bit underwhelming. But I think he could probably pull off a good slasher movie. What? But yeah, but
he's actually playing with his band in Dublin in October, I think it is,
and in Bristol as well. I mean, I really hope it's I really hope he, because he's had a bit of a career resurgence, hasn't he? Renaissance with his kind of lost soundtracks. So I think it would be great. I mean, it'll just be interesting to see what they come up with. But I don't know. I'm holding out hope for it, and I think it will be. I can imagine people getting as excited as they did pre Halloween H2O. When that film kind of came out, I think people were really pumped for it, and it's still like a fun movie, but it'd be difficult, I imagine, to capture the magic of the first one or even the second one. But it remains to be seen. But well, thank you, Eric. I just kind of one other thing I've just been watching.
Sorry, you should have said I haven't finished speaking yet.
Well, I haven't finished speaking yet, Eric.
I thought you had finished your recently seen. That's why I interrupted with Halloween breaking news. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, I'll take it with more dignity and grace than Nathan does.
I was nicer than that, by the way. I went back and re-listened. How dare you?
So the other thing I've been watching, I just started watching Penny Dreadful season 3, which I really, really like. Penny Dreadful. I think it's really.
How the hell did you get through season 1?
What do you mean? Did you not like
it? I hated season 1. But everybody keeps saying that if I could get through season 1, 2, and 3 is really good.
Yeah, well, I thought season 1 was good. Yeah. I
don't know. I just got so bored with season 1.
Wow. So you didn't get to see Josh Hartnett shagging Dorian Gray?
Oh, no. I don't believe I got to see that part.
We'll see there. See, that would have kept you watching.
Is that real, or is that just a dream you had?
No, it's true. He does. Josh Hartnett's character...
who plays Dorian Gray?
I can't remember his name, but he's in the new Rocky Horror Picture Show.
What? They're making a new film?
Yeah, didn't you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like a remake, or is it another?
Yeah, it's a remake.
It's it's a TV movie, isn't it? So
it's like a made-for-TV remake.
It's just getting worse and worse.
I'm going to watch it out of curiosity.
Yeah. But I would recommend Penny Dreadful. Eric, I'm surprised you haven't watched it.
I haven't, no. Even though it's filmed in Dublin, I think I mentioned this before, it's filmed in Dublin, and then the post-production is done just down the road from me here.
Okay.
But no, I've never watched it.
Well, Eric, you could go be in it if it's filmed there.
I could. Yeah. I possibly am walking past in the background without knowing it, going to the supermarket.
They've got all sorts.
You could play.
All sorts of oddities in it. So.
Hey.
You could play Penny.
Or Dreadful.
No, I got there first.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You could.
Well, you might need an instant replay on that one.
Yeah. Photo finish.
Yeah. What about you, Joseph?
I'm sorry, Justin. Eric got there first.
Yeah. Thank you.
I heard it.
Yeah. Well, I think don't forget I've got the editing button, so so it's a moot point, really, isn't it?
Anyway, no, I've not seen Penny Dreadful. Is it anything like the movie, or is it just a different story?
It's a completely different story. It's kind of set. I think we talked about it before, but very briefly. It's set in Victorian London. No,
yeah,
but it's got all...
I know, that's what makes me go...
I mean, I have nothing against that style and that time period. It's just, when it comes to movies and TV shows, I have a hard time, getting into it. Maybe if I sit down and watch it, I'd like it, but, that right there just kind of puts me off.
I challenge you to watch a couple, Joseph, and see what you think. It's not stuffy at all. It's very gothic, very dark, and very funny.
Well, see, I like stuff like the original The Woman in Black, set in Victorian times.
It's
so maybe I'll give it a chance.
It's nothing like Woman in Black. I mean, it's very stylized and very gory and very just not trashy. I mean, it's very well done as well. So, but anyway, enough of Penny Dreadful.
If Josh Hartnett wasn't in it and somebody you didn't like was in it, would you still enjoy the series?
Well, there's a guy who plays Dorian Gray's quite easy on the eye. So there's quite a lot of...
I would actually agree with that.
Reeve Carney is his name. I've never heard of him.
Is he a Carney?
I wonder if he's related to Bridget Carney.
Ponce. He has Paul Weller 1981 hairstyle.
Well, I know he's got ties to Robert Carney from Boise, Idaho. They're a big family.
Is this a Simpsons reference? I don't get.
I'm not getting this.
No, I just think having the last name Carney is funny.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I love, and Justin does this a lot, is when somebody says something and nobody gets it, he like does this pause and then he goes, okay.
I'm just trying to move on to the next bit to keep all our...
It's just all kinds of shade being thrown up today.
I know. I feel like we're on an episode of Drag Race.
I know.
Sachet.
I'm just gonna mute. I'm just gonna hit the mute button and go back to sleep. See you later, guys.
Nice.
I can see. Eric's wig hasn't blended at the front or the back. So anyway, I think should we move on? Should we move on to our feature presentation? And
oh yes.
And Nathan, you're going to come back in. As we couldn't find a trailer for Hard to Die, there is some. Is a clip here of some dialogue to show you the Oscar-worthy Shakespearean gravitas of Hard to Die.
Ta-da! Not bad, huh? You look like shit. Boobs are hanging out. Your hair is still red. You're just plain ugly.
Will you guys keep it down? Yeah, the design on the box looks Egyptian to me. Although, what do I know?
Egyptian, you say?
Well, there's no writing or anything, just little patterns.
Well, can you describe them?
Well, to tell you the truth, they look a little strange. Like there's a row of bald-headed soldiers marching into a fiery opening.
And there was no return address on the package?
None.
No note or anything inside?
No.
Dawn, listen. And listen very carefully. I want you and the others to...
Hello? Dr. Newton?
Dawn? Dawn?
He hung up.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was the end of the clip. I was so excited listening to it. I thought you were going to keep playing it. Because they go, how rude. Want a beer? So, sheer terror, sublime suspense. While doing the inventory for a lingerie outlet in a high-rise office building, 5 buxom women are terrorized by a series of bizarre killings. They suspect that the strange janitor... Thank you, Boomer. Right in the middle of my description.
How rude.
I know.
Want a beer?
They suspect that the strange janitor who witnessed another series of killings years back is at the bottom of the whole thing. Little do they know the real horror that they face in the end may be closer than they think. This movie is absolutely brilliant. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Fantastic, amazing. I mean, what is the highest word of praise? Stripes. See, Stripes agrees. So, I mean, I don't know the highest word of praise that we can use. So whatever the highest word is, that's the one I need to go with.
Toya-esque is the highest word of praise.
I think that's quite an apt description of this movie.
I don't know if that's an insult or not. But, I mean, I absolutely love the film. I think that Orville Ketchum is hysterical. I think it's funny how they decide to get the girls into the lingerie, because they're down in the basement, with the inventory. And then, of course, the sprinklers get set off. And so they get covered in, water. So, what better thing to do than to have, a long shower session and wear some of the lingerie and high heels for the rest of the movie while getting chased by the maniac. I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, I love that even throughout the whole movie, even when they know that they're being stalked by a killer, none of them think to take off these high heels. They always, make sure to run in them and everything, which I think is another hysterical scene. I also love when at the end, you've got the killer. Spoiler alert, everybody, I'm going to spoil it. The killer actually turns out to be Diana, another woman who's helping them. She's actually possessed because they find the soul box, and the spirit of Hochstetter, the serial killer, possesses her. And so she ends up being the killer. And at the end, her and the heroine, each grab machine guns and start firing at each other from about 10 feet away, but they can't hit each other. Which me and my friend Melissa always finds hysterical, that they can't hit each other shooting right at each other for about 10 feet apart, but Jackie, who's standing way off to the side, gets hit with a stray bullet, which makes no sense. But, I mean, that's just another thing I love about the movie. And at the end, when Dawn is cowering in the hallway and Diana's, like, descending upon her laughing, that's very creepy. It scared me when I was a kid when I watched this movie. I thought it was a scary scene. As an adult, maybe less so. But when I was a kid, I thought it was, which was great. I also love seeing footage from the Slumber Party Massacre. Because Slumber Party Massacre is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I thought it was funny how they worked it in with that, ridiculous commentary. But, I mean, there's so much stuff that can be said about it, but I don't want to say too much because I know you guys have your own opinions. And so to go to somebody who I believe might have a polar opposite opinion, I will start with Erik.
Well, I find it ironic that the film opens with a girl saying, "Please let it be over." Let's just leave it at that. Back in the day, I reviewed Sorority House Massacre 2, which was Jim Wynorski's previous movie for Hysteria Lives. This is about 15 years ago. And I was quite harsh on it, but I revisited it in the last few weeks in anticipation of Hard to Die, thinking that I would have changed my opinion, because my opinions, as we've said so many times on the podcast, have changed over the years. Films I didn't like back in the day, I tend to quite like now. But unfortunately, with Sorority House Massacre 2, I think I was spot on back then, because I still think it's a decent sort of opening 10 and 15 minutes of setup and then a really, really boring hour. And that's kind of my reaction to Hard to Die as well. I find it engaging for the first 15, 20 minutes. I don't think it's an awful movie by any means, but I don't get this, this is one of Jim Wynorski's best movies, it's a really great Roger Corman flick, blah, 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 it's great fun. For me, the first 50 minutes are great, or not great, I should say, they're entertaining, but at that point, I've watched the film sort of 4 or 5 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and at the same point in the movie I just begin to lose interest, and suddenly I'm on my iPhone or I'm on the iPad or I'm looking out the window at a bird flying by because it's more interesting than what's happening on the screen. And I always thought the title Hard to Die was a bit lackluster, especially for a horror movie. It didn't really because this is the first time I've seen Hard to Die in the last few weeks. So I didn't realize that it was a pun on Die Hard. So, I mean, I'll give them kudos for that, because it is, they've taken Sorority House Massacre and turned it into kind of a Die Hard movie with chicks with machine guns running up and down a skyscraper, a tower block, escaping a killer. As I said, it starts out promisingly enough. I mean, as you were saying, I like the idea of just getting the girls into their knickers with the most contrived set of circumstances they can think of. For starters, they arrive for this sort of manual labor dressed in, like supermodels, like trashy supermodels, I should say. And then when their outfits get wet, when the sprinkler goes off, they have to strip down and get into underwear for the rest of the movie. And I mean, I like just the idea that there's no pretense. It says we're just going to put these big boobed girls in bikini, in knickers and bras, and this is how we're going to do it. But once Orville Ketchum to me is not an interesting character. I don't get the appeal. I don't find him interesting or funny, and I don't know how he sustained a career over sort of 3 or 4 different movies. I do like the idea that he keeps the key of the basement in his underpants, which is a great place to keep a key, I suppose, although it would create uncomfortableness, I'm sure, particularly when you're walking. I don't know, maybe some people might like that, Justin. Do you like to go? Sorry?
Excuse me?
I thought you might like sort of like sharp metal sticking into your bits as you walk. It might give you a bit of a thrill.
No, Erik, I think you thought it, so I think it's probably something that happens to you.
How dare you? Yeah. Well, I mean, the film is trying to be cartoony, and it does succeed at that. It turns Orville Ketchum into kind of Wile E. Coyote by having him, constantly coming back to life after being machine gunned and stabbed and thrown off buildings. And I do like the bit where he falls off the building and the camera shakes in a kind of a Looney Tunes cartoon way. But the thing with Looney Tunes is they're 3 minutes long, whereas the sort of the Looney Tunes-ish part of Hard to Die goes on for about 45 minutes, and really, to me, outstays its welcome. The Slumber Party Massacre footage at the start, which they used as well in Slumber House No, not Slumber House. Sorority House Massacre 2. This is all getting very confusing. It just reminded me that Slumber Party Massacre was a much superior movie, because you can even tell from those glimpses just how much more of a cohesive slasher movie it was. And for me, I was never into these, obviously I was never into these scream queens that were famous in the late 80s and early 90s, but I mean, they were never in good movies. People like Brinke Stevens, Debbie Rochon, or however you pronounce it, Linnea Quigley, Michelle Bauer, all those, never had any interest in them. The movies they were in to me were quite lackluster, and I prefer my scream queens to be like Jamie Lee Curtis, Amy Steele, Leslie Donaldson, where they're actually in slasher movies that I like. Having said that, I do like it's Gail Harris, or Robin Harris, I think is her pseudonym in this. It's just weird having this actress with a broad Yorkshire accent, although at times I'm thinking in the film that she's trying to mask it. I don't know, Justin, did you get this? Sometimes she sounds like she's trying to sound American.
Yeah, she starts off the film sounding American, and then she goes into broad Yorkshire. I think part of me is thinking that it may have been because she was in Sorority House Massacre 2, wasn't she, as well?
She was, yeah. All the cast were, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and she was, the same thing happened in that, and I think half of me thought it was kind of an in-joke, possibly, that she starts off trying to mask it with an American accent, and then it goes into really broad Yorkshire accent.
I know. They'll catch him. Yeah. I can't even do the Yorkshire accent myself. I shouldn't complain. I'll be complaining about it. So, yeah, I think it plays well to its target audience, which would be teenage boys who are into boobs, which surprises me that you're such a big fan of it, Nathan. But just big boob ladies with machine guns doesn't do anything for me. But having said that, I've seen plenty worse than Hard to Die. I can kind of see why you like it, but for me, it has no second act. It has an introduction, and then it has an hour of just people running around with machine guns, and just there was not enough there for me to enjoy it. And as I said, I just got really bored sort of maybe 20 minutes into the film, and it just never wrangled my interest back, I'm afraid. But no, plenty worse. But it's not one I will be revisiting. No matter how special an edition Scream Factory might come out with in the future, I don't think I'll be buying it. Sorry.
Well, at least you said that there's been worse, so I'll at least think that is very, very faint praise.
No, there has definitely been worse. And I remember even reading in Video Watchdog, of all magazines, who are obviously our best friends, that even, what's his name, Tim Lucas gave Hard to Die a good review. So I was thinking, okay, there must be more to this than just women with big boobs going around with machine guns. But after watching it, there isn't, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's hard for me to explain why I love it so much. I don't know. It's just everything in the movie clicks for me. I find it cheesily entertaining. I believe we'll move to Joseph.
Well, Hard to Die. I'm not going to say I liked it, but I didn't hate it. The problem is that I think it's a movie that someone like, Mike, Bill, and Kevin would have a field day with, and I think it's missing the Riff Tracks guys or the Mystery Science Theater guys, and I think it's missing that kind of extra layer of someone poking fun at it. Certainly, it's a movie you can poke fun at, but I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of on the side with Erik here. I find the setup is fairly entertaining, and but once it gets into it, these girls are just kind of running around with machine guns. I watched it, but at the same time, I was just kind of looking for little distractions to kind of make the time go by a little quicker. And they sit there and talk about just kind of mundane things like maybe we should move these boxes to the third floor. What do you think about that? The third floor is kind of the perfect place to put all these boxes. And it just goes on, and I'm like, okay, just get to the point. Now, having said that, one thing I disagree with Erik on is that I think Orville Ketchum was the most entertaining thing in the film. I like that he can get riddled with bullets and just keep coming back. I don't know. So I found something about him endearing, whereas the rest of the movie I just kind of found was a bit of a chore. Now, it's funny in places, and it's certainly never boring, but it's never boring in that way. Like, okay, there's goofy, flashy things happening on screen, which is entertaining in and of itself, but that's all there is to it. It's like someone, I guess it's kind of like a magician showing you a neat trick. Ooh, it's flashy, but that's all there is to it. There's no real substance here. It's just a goofy kind of Roger Corman style. Throw a girl in some bra and panties and watch her get chased around kind of thing. And for me, I don't know. I look for a little more in slasher films as I get older, I guess. 20 years ago, I would have probably had a riot with this movie, just laughing and pointing at it and snickering. But now I'm just like, okay, the joke is, it's already told its joke, and now they're just kind of repeating the same joke over and over for 90 minutes. So let's move on to something else. But so I didn't hate it, but didn't necessarily love it. I'll just say middle of the road for me. It's worth one watch. I'd say if you're going for a quote unquote massacre style film, stick with the Slumber Party films. Not a big fan of the Sorority House films and of this. I think of the Sorority House Overwhere or whatever, I'd say this is the best one. I guess kind of damning with faint praise. But, like I said, if you want to go with a massacre style, just stick with the original Slumber Party Massacre films. Like Erik said, they're a little more cohesive, certainly better made, and they don't rely. I mean, they in and of themselves, they have some good, sight gags and, puns, but they don't kind of overdo it like Hard to Die. So I'd say maybe a 4 out of 10, 5 if I'm being generous.
Was that the sound of
I think it's interesting. No, actually, I was thinking it's interesting that, one of the things you said about, the older you get, the more you're looking for in a film, because I'm like the opposite. It's like the older I get, the more I like. Stripes, can you give me a break here? I think the dog's harassing her. Boomer, lay down. Lay down, buddy.
I would agree with Nathan. Like, the older I get, the more tolerant of films that I had little time for back in the day. But it's just not the case with Hard to Die, I'm afraid.
Well, I think the problem is that
sad.
I think the problem is that I've spent 20 years just watching all this, for lack of a better word, crap. Let's not split hairs here, and I kind of enjoying it on its own terms, but I've seen all the crap, so now I'm looking for all the good, and I just don't really, I've wasted all my time on all the silly stuff, so now I want to get to the good stuff, as it were.
See, I don't even consider it wasting. For me, it's like, oh, bring on the silly stuff. I want to keep watching it. Please keep making it. Justin.
Well,
my friend. My confidant. Please go.
Right. Well, I can't remember which film it was, but they said, and it was Miracle Pictures, because that's obviously comes out of Miracle Pictures, and someone said, if it's a good picture, it's a miracle. And I can't remember which film that was from, but someone else, I saw someone, a review of it said, Hard to Die, aka Hard to Watch. But I've got to say, I adore this movie. I really, really love Hard to Die. I think it's a riot from beginning to end. The cast and crew are clearly having absolute, they're enjoying every minute of it. For me, a lot of their kind of late 80s, early 90s slasher movies fall flat. It's not my preferred period. Like Erik, I prefer the 70s, early 80s, kind of up to mid 80s kind of slasher movies. But I kind of really enjoy this. I think it's tongues in its cheek all the way through. It's got loads of sight gags. The fact is, it's got loads of naked ladies in it, which to be honest, most of the time would bore me, rigid, rather than the other way. But I thought with this, it's so playful. Things like about sort of saying, "Oh, push your chest up against the door," all those kind of things. It's almost like a carry-on film. I just thought it was just really good fun. It was, for me, it's a perfect kind of beer and pizza movie. So I can see some people might not like it, but I was rewatching it. I thought, well, maybe I wouldn't like it as much. I remember liking it, but I just thought it was charming in a kind of really cheesy way. And I thought all the women in it were engaging. I love the ending with the machine gun fight. As Nathan said, it was brilliant. And I love the woman who played the kind of the killer. when she's possessed. It was just, you've got the Yorkshire lass running away from her in high heels, clopping down the hallway to get away from her, and she's just having a riot. She's having a great time, and I think that really translates onto the screen. It's I think it's effortlessly entertaining, and it's I can really see why people wouldn't like it. But Orville Ketchum, all of that kind of thing, I just think it's made by people who have a genuine love for the genre, but don't take themselves too seriously. So it's a 2 thumbs up from me.
Yay,
Eric!
I'm very excited.
What are we going to do with them?
I think we're being bullied in this episode.
I think we are. I feel I'm being bullied. I'm going straight to HR.
What? You both bullied me. You insulted my choice.
Yeah, well, what's
and you know what? I've got some news for you naysayers. You're going to be very shocked to learn this, and I bet it's going to change your opinion about the film.
What?
So, picture this, if you will. The year was 1990. Horror was scarce. We weren't getting much in the way of horror. And not many people know this because it's very top secret, but the reason we weren't getting that much horror is that there was a meeting with the United Nations about banning horror films worldwide. But a plucky young man, who shall remain anonymous, showed up at one of the final meetings of banning horror films and presented our world leaders with a film known as Hard to Die. When the world leaders saw this film, they realized that horror films cannot be banned or else we wouldn't get films of this caliber ever again. After an intense debate, they decided horror films should not be banned, and that's why we still have horror movies today, and you can thank Hard to Die for that.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
Yeah.
It should.
Sounds like you're writing your own little movie there.
Yeah.
No.
Do you remember to take your medication this morning?
This was true. Oh, I took my meds.
I'd like you to cite your sources, please.
Well, let's just say the plucky young man that presented it to them. I know him very personally, and I'm not going to name names. Okay. But it wasn't Justin, it wasn't Joseph, and it wasn't Eric. It was me.
Was it George? George Glass.
I just saw Spider-Man outside. So
I just saw Susie singing a song with a tune.
But it's not too hard to believe.
It is. Halloween.
Anyway, no, I didn't hate Hard to Die. I just, I don't know. The one thing I do appreciate about it is that it does have that genuine, I guess, like Justin was saying, it has that kind of the feeling that these people love these movies. But I don't know. I felt it could have used more of the, I guess, the stalk and slash to kind of, maybe if they kind of like portioned it a little better in the middle, I guess, instead of just kind of going off all the whole just people running around in their underwear thing. And maybe, in that in and of itself, it's not bad. I think it could have used more, I guess, more of a little bit of a serious side, maybe.
Yeah, I kind of like the campiness of it, I guess. That's kind of why I like it so much. I love the name.
I love campy stuff. I'm sorry. I love campy stuff. Don't get me wrong. I just think, 90 minutes of nothing but camp. I don't know. It's just not.
You must have watched the longer version because I watched the 77-minute version.
Well, I don't know how long the running time was, but it felt like 90 minutes at least.
Well, there is a longer version, but the shorter version cut out like a lot of extra stuff that Roger Corman thought wasn't really necessary.
I
love the
83-minute version.
I love the fact that the name of the Chinese delivery place is Chow Down Delivery.
Yeah.
And the woman who's playing the Chinese woman, she's a blonde actress, isn't she? She's not one of the playmates.
Well, she's a Playboy playmate, yeah.
She was in Evil Toons.
Right.
Monique Gabrielle.
Yeah.
But I love the Chow Down Delivery just because it's so ridiculous. And,
racist. Very racist.
Well, it is, yeah.
And I also love when her body is found. I mean, earlier she was completely engulfed in flames, but when her body's found in the elevator, it looks like just a few shreds of her clothes are burned.
I know, especially it looked like it was a nylon nightmare as well. So you would have thought that thing would have gone up like a.
This is going to sound kind of weird, but one movie this reminds me of, Hard to Die reminds me of, but that I think did this kind of formula a little better is Killer Party with the whole possession and the characters are kind of goofy, but in that it had more of an edge to it that I appreciated a little more here.
Ooh,
I would agree.
That's a tough one because I love Killer Party.
Do you know what other film? It's almost like a virtual remake of Hellraiser.
Hard to Die is way better than Hellraiser. Let's just be honest.
Well, they open like an almost Chinese puzzle box type container to unleash the demon.
Yeah.
So it's very Hellraiser-esque.
That's very true.
And also the victims, they had families, they had loved ones.
I felt so bad for the victims.
Oh, Nathan.
I did. Like, I felt. We joke about it, but at the time, I felt genuine sympathy for the characters in Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3.
Yeah, because it's all about characters in those movies.
Yeah,
I felt genuine sympathy for the audience.
So one thing, because it's jokey nature. I mean, all the way through. At the end, it's got it credits the underwater unit. What was that about? Was that just a joke, do you think?
I think it was just a joke, just like Orville in Orbit is a joke.
Yeah.
There was something else in the end credits as well that was kind of funny. Let me look at my notes. I can't remember what. Keep talking.
What did you think of the squeakiness in the shower scenes? They always put squeaky sound effects. It's like they're rubbing over like a hard surface or something.
Well, with those implants, they probably were.
Oh, you're right.
Yes.
Maybe there's a reason he added those sound effects.
Yeah.
What's a picture of Chi-Chi's, by the way? Does anyone know? What is Chi-Chi's?
Yeah, well, it's supposed to. I guess it's some kind of drink. I don't know.
It must be, yeah. Because the agent tells.
Well, if anyone would know, it would be Justin, wouldn't it?
Yeah, surely.
Justin.
I've never heard of a picture of Chi-Chi's. No. No idea. If
You would drink it anyway, though. I'm sure.
Well, it depends what it is. Because it may
Well,
be.
no,
Like,
I don't think that matters to you, does it?
well, if it could be a picture, like as in baseball. Probably not.
No.
No.
I wouldn't say so. No.
But if it's wet and got alcohol content above 0.01, then yeah, I'll drink it.
I thought so, yeah. The other credit at the end is personal training for Orville Ketchum was by Hard Bodies. For you, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how sleazy the boss is. He's such a sleaze bag.
That's the corporate world for you?
Mr. Plimpton.
Yeah.
I think it's just that I don't know if it's kind of one of those movies that probably has to catch you in the right mood, perhaps. But I'm impressed that we've got such a big split down the middle.
That's
Erik.
yeah. It's unusual that it is kind of 50-50, really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I watched. I as you said, Justin, I thought maybe it was a film you had to watch in the right mood. So I've watched it several times over the last couple of weeks, and it just like I'm there with it for 20 minutes, and then I just lose interest completely. Because as I said, I still think it's missing that second act. It goes from Act 1 to Act 3, and Act 3 is too prolonged, and I just find it a bit tedious. Although it's playing in the background here in the scene with on the porn movie set is there, and the woman with the really dirty feet, which I thought was quite funny as well.
I do tend to split people down the middle, so.
Well, hey.
Nathan, you're watching the shorter version? Does that have the porno scene in it?
No, the shorter version cuts out the porno. I've seen both versions, but the shorter version cuts out the porno scene, and it also cuts out some of the scenes with Forrest J. Ackerman. The doctor scientist or whatever that they call about the puzzle box.
All right. Okay, so I didn't realize there was different versions of it. Yeah, so this version I'm watching is the 83-minute cut, and it has Jim Wynorski cameoing as a porn movie director, trying to direct a woman who has the filthiest feet I've ever seen in my life.
And what's the other woman? What's her name? She's the one from
Kelly Maroney.
Kelly Maroney. I was surprised actually that Kelly Maroney, because I don't remember her going topless in other movies, but she's got.
She did.
Did she?
She goes topless in Scream Queen's Hot Tub Party.
Oh right, okay.
that classic.
That classic one. It's one of those movies where they get like Brink Stevens is in it, Michelle Bauer, Kelly Maroney, and a few others, and it's like the five of them in a hot tub. It's mainly a clip movie. They just show various clips from their films and stuff like that. But I was actually really shocked. I was really shocked.
For a second.
Oh, clip.
Yeah, and I thought,
What? Oh, Erik.
That's what I thought. That's why I genuinely thought that's what Nathan said.
No, as a clip, it ends with a P.
Yes, I know. I understand now. Yeah.
I don't think Kelly Maroney would have been in, or Brinke Stevens would have been in that type of movie, would they?
Well, Brinke Stevens definitely would. She did topless in a bunch of movies. But Kelly Maroney was the shocker to me. But she does this whole scene where she's like working out topless.
Okay. Oh, interesting. No, I mean, I can't imagine doing a bottomless movie.
Yes. Yes.
You know, but anyway, no.
You can't imagine? I thought you have done some of those.
Sorry? What?
You said you can't imagine doing a bottomless movie, and I said I thought you had done some of those. Isn't there some of your movies you find in Spanish flea markets? Didn't we talk about that before?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Spanish supermarkets.
I haven't been in them.
Oh, okay. You just watched them.
No. I just saw them on a shelf.
You are a pervert.
We saw them in a Spanish supermarket. They were kind of like...
okay.
We didn't see them as in watch them. They were just on a shelf. Goodness sake. What do you take me for?
A pervert.
Well, Erik says it all the time, and it's one of those things when, you know, it gets said so much it starts to be believable.
Yeah.
Well, Eric's calling me a pervert, and he keeps on fantasising about having sex with Bob Hoskins' corpse and a toilet. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, hello.
Did you say Toya or a toilet?
A toilet and Toya.
Well, they're interchangeable.
Yeah, what did you say, Justin?
They're interchangeable.
No, they're not. I hate you.
The Toya's hardly flushed with success these days, is she?
Oh, very good. She is, actually.
Is she? What, a cash in the attic?
Yes, she was on some Holiday of My Childhood program on daytime BBC last year.
Oh, what did she...
She went on a canal trip in Wales.
On a penny farthing?
No, she was on a canal boat.
Oh, you talked about that, I know.
Yes, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's Len Goodman from Strictly Come Dancing.
Have they had the BAFTAs yet?
They have, and it didn't win, which I'm surprised.
But anyway, let's get back to Hard to Die. I'm sure our listeners
I love the interview with Diana, by the way, when he goes, how's your typing? And she's like, well, as long as you're not worried about accuracy, 14 words a minute.
So, well, is there anything else to say about Hard to Die before we move on to some background?
I love that Orville Ketchum eats raw meat sandwiches.
Yeah, is that what it was?
I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's like raw meat, it looks like, on a sandwich. And I also love that he, to heal himself, he staples a bandage around his wound.
That's very Rambo.
Yeah, he's actually one of probably the toughest movie characters I've ever seen.
I'm surprised he didn't become an action hero.
One thing that I don't understand is, so the whole movie they think he's the killer, so of course he's getting beat up like the whole movie, but he keeps trying to save them regardless. I'm like, I would think it eventually I'd be like, forget it. They've done beat me up enough. I'm out of here.
Why doesn't he just say something?
Yeah, why didn't he? Yeah.
Well, in one scene he tries to say Dawn, like her name, but she starts stabbing him right when he says it. So
hey,
it didn't really
Dawn.
get out. Maybe he has problems talking, except for when he's giving them basement keys.
Well, I suppose lots of men have difficulty talking to big boobied ladies who are prancing around them in lingerie.
And when he's doing the story, I cannot remember the names he uses for the girls, but because, like, I watched Sorority House Massacre 2 and Hard to Die back to back this week, so, and they both feature, like, him giving a narration over the Slumber Party Massacre footage. But in one of them, it's so ridiculous because he says something like, he got Ginger, then he went after Mary Ann. And I'm like, that was so stupid. So obviously a Gilligan's Island joke, which was very dumb but funny.
I wouldn't have got that. I never watched Gilligan's Island, so.
You never watched it? Ever?
No. I don't know if it was ever shown over here.
No, I didn't see it. Never saw it.
In Sorority House Massacre 2 as well, Orville Ketchum keeps the key in his underpants as well. I suppose we should say at this point that it is kind of a remake, but it is the remake of Sorority House Massacre 2, and we'll get onto that in the background, I'm sure. But
yeah. And I was trying to think if there's anything else. I'm looking at my notes here that we did not touch upon that I'd like to touch upon.
Oh, Nathan.
I am sick of you, Mr. Cannon. Fine.
That's Moving Violations, which I watched last night, by the way.
Yeah, that was my I'm sick of you, Mr. Cannon moment.
I've never seen Moving Violations either. No, sorry.
Neither have
Oh
I.
my God, Eric, it's awesome.
No, I can actually back him up. This movie is hilarious.
It's one of the funniest
Chevy
80s
Chase.
comedies.
No, it's Bill Murray's brother John. If God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you like the Police Academy movies, you'll like Moving Violations. I actually think it's funnier.
Not on
than
Buckery. Not on Curryfraw.
I think it's funnier than Police Academy movies.
I do too.
Plus, there's a lot of horror film references in the film.
Because one of the characters is all about horror movies. So, because when I watched it with Wes last night, he's like, "That's you."
I'm just looking at an IMDb. It's got Brian Backer and Ned Eisenberg from The Burning in it.
Yeah, Ned Eisenberg is the character that loves horror movies in the film. Right. He's all about scary movies. And Jennifer Tilly's in it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Let's check that one out. Anyway,
yes. Sorry. Oh, no. I mean, that's good. No, I think we've pretty much covered everything in the film, to be honest. I love the fact, here's one more thing I wanted to say. I love the fact that at the end, even when the final girl tells the cops that Diana was the killer, they still think Orville Ketchum's the killer. Because he says something like, "Oh, she must be out of her mind. She don't know what she's talking about." It's like he just wants Orville Ketchum to be the killer so bad.
Well, it's very difficult to take seriously a supermodel who's in her bra and pants.
Yeah.
But she ends up shooting him, too.
Due process doesn't exist in Hard to Die.
No.
What also doesn't exist is aim, because here's the thing. If you want to be safe in Hard to Die, just stand in between the two girls shooting each other with machine guns. Standing off to the side will get you killed. But if you stand right between them, you're good.
That's physics for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they researched that. But anyway, I think that's all I've got. Okay. It's just such a brilliant movie. I just have so much I want to say.
I know you're very excited, Nathan. But
I'm very excited this morning, and it's real early.
Oh, okay. Well, let's move on to some background. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Let's see. It was shot in 10 days. Jim Wynorski in an interview said that Roger Corman, likes his film short and to the point, and that's the reason he cut out, like we discussed earlier, some of the scenes with Forrest J. Ackerman, and also the porn scenes. Like the shorter version was the original released version, but since then, the longer version's been released as well. And of course, there's footage from Slumber Party Massacre, and obviously that was just done to pad running time because, when you film for only just a very short time frame, there's only so much footage you have. So that's one thing. When Deborah Dutch, her character died, she said in an interview that every time she hit the floor, her legs would always fly up. And eventually Jim Wynorski just said, "Keep it," because it just turned out to be funnier than her just hitting the floor, which I agree with. I think her legs flying up like that is just so over the top. The main five girls were former Playboy playmates. The HBO version boasts the beginning logo of Miracle Pictures, which Justin mentioned earlier, which was most likely being named after Miracle Studios from Hollywood Boulevard, which is another Roger Corman flick. Many posters from Jim Wynorski's other films can be seen in Acme lingerie, such as Chopping Mall, Return to the Swamp Thing, and Not of This Earth, the remake. When Sorority House Massacre 2 was made, Roger Corman was on vacation, and Jim Wynorski had spoken with Roger Corman's wife, and she had let him just basically to his own devices make Sorority House Massacre 2, pretty much behind Roger Corman's back. And when Roger Corman came back and Jim Wynorski showed him the film, he liked it enough that he gave Jim Wynorski a little bit bigger of a budget and wanted him to remake it. So he remade it as Hard to Die, which, it's kind of funny because a lot of people consider it like the third sequel, but I mean, it's kind of a remake. I don't know. It's one of those weird situations where it's a sequel/remake, I guess. But it could also easily be its own standalone film as well, which is why it doesn't have a part 3 attached to it for its official title. The video box, like we said earlier, It's kind of a play on Die Hard because the video box, if you look at it and read the back, it doesn't sound like a slasher movie at all. I mean, it does make it sound like a Die Hard action film in a, in the skyscraper building. But I mean, it's not like a typical action film. I mean, they don't even get the guns until like the last 15 minutes of the movie. But I mean, that is all that I've got. So, Joseph.
Okay, I don't know if you mentioned it, but it was also at one point known as Tower of Terror. Did you mention that?
No, I did not.
Okay, yeah, it's known as Tower of Terror. Let's see. Bob Sheridan, who did a lot of the songs on the soundtrack as Mr. Moderation, died in 2014 at the age of 64. The song on the end credits, Women Are Like That, also played in Bikini Drive-In. A Room at the Bottom, which is in the film, was in Point of Seduction 3, Body Chemistry. In Munchie Strikes Back, Women Are Like That was also in the first Munchie film. Sorority House Massacre 2 also had Room at the Bottom, so there's definitely just kind of playing of the songs over and over again. He was an actor in Hard to Die. He was a cop in the lobby. He was a moving man in Sorority House Massacre 2. And that's pretty much all the info I had. I mean, I looked but couldn't really find much. And you've already mentioned all the other stuff I'd found. So,
Erik?
Yeah, okay, well, Jim Wynorski has directed under the pseudonym Arch Stanton, which, oops, there's my love beads again, which apparently is a name on a gravestone in the film The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This was Jim Wynorski's 10th movie. I was looking at, he's made 100 movies according to his IMDb page as of this moment. I was looking at some of his recent back catalogue, just the titles, and there's some great ones there. There's Cleavage Field, which is, I suppose, a topless ladies version of Cloverfield.
I love Cleavage Field.
Have you seen it?
Yes. Oh, my God. It's so stupid, but I love it. Like, there's a scene where they have to go to the scientist to figure out how the monster got on Earth. And the scientist is this blonde with glasses, and her boobs are so big. And, like, of course, she's like, obviously her getting topless is very important to the plot. So at one point, she just rips her lab coat open to reveal her big boobs.
Excellent. Actually, I'm kind of warming to it now. I actually would quite like to watch it. I don't know what you're doing to me.
Oh my goodness, it's so ridiculous, and they really do try to like play it up like as a parody of Cloverfield. By the way,
is it done found footage style?
Yes.
Other movies, recent movies in his back catalogue with similar type of punny porn titles include Scared Topless, The Devil Wears Nada, which I quite liked, House on Hooter Hill, and The Hills Have Thighs, which I thought was quite clever. No?
Yes. Good.
Yes. The agent in the movie goes under the character name of Walter Paisley, which is a character name that Dick Miller, the actor, used was christened with a lot in various movies, including Bucket of Blood, The Howling, Twilight Zone, and then Jim Wynorski's finest hour, in my opinion, Chopping Mall. Robin Harris, whose real name is Gail Harris, or her maiden name is Gail Thackeray. She's the lead. She plays Dawn in the film. She was a British page 3 model. Do you remember page 3 models, Justin?
I do.
Back in the 80s, they were a big deal in the 80s. I don't know if you guys in the States know, but page 3 models were basically you'd open your tabloid like the Sun or the Mirror, and there'd be a topless woman on page 3. And this was big business for models back in the day, and for tabloid newspapers as well. I think they're gone now. That whole phenomena is over.
I think so.
Yeah. I don't read British tabloids, so I wouldn't know. But anyway, she was a famous page 3 model, and she featured in the Electric Blue series of softcore porn movies before breaking into Hollywood in inverted commas. And she's now sort of an adult website entrepreneur. Karen Mayo Chandler, who plays Diana in the movie, and Justin pointed out is quite fun when she's playing the possessed character towards the end. She sadly passed away in 2006, and like a lot of the cast, she ended up appearing in a lot of Jim Wynorski movies. She was in 976 Evil 2. Deborah Dutch, who plays Jackie, had an uncredited role in a bona fide slasher classic, Graduation Day. And Bridget Carney plays Shauna. It says on the IMDb that she was interred at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, but it doesn't actually say anything about her dying anywhere else on the webpage. So I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is that she's no credits on her IMDb page beyond 1991. So it may be that she is sadly no longer with us. And that's all I have for Hard to Die, apart from the fact that...
Do you know who Deborah Dutch played in Graduation Day?
There is a character name for her. I can't remember what it was, but it didn't ring any bells. Do you?
She's the screaming girl with Vanna White. You know, the one they always bump into, those two girls. She's Vanna White's friend.
Oh, cool. Well, then she plays one of my favorite characters in Graduation Day, because I love those characters.
Justin.
Well, I think you've pretty much covered most of it. A few little bits haven't been mentioned. Erik said about Gail Harris was from Yorkshire. She was born in Batley, which is the Yorkshire town where they had the golf club. Do you remember that clip?
Oh, that video, yeah.
That was the Batley Golf Club.
With that girl dancing so brilliantly to Life on Mars.
Well, yeah, and also Glenn, what's his name? Glenn Miller. Do you remember those bizarrely dancing to all the kind of 40s stuff as well? And then
the golf club.
Yeah, I know, it's very strange, but it must have been a kind of like an in-joke back then. But anyway, she was from Batley. She, like you say, she was in the Electric Blue series, like one called Trashy Ladies Wrestling, which sounds very entertaining. The film was actually made in, I might have mentioned this, made in 1989. It went through by a number, say the chronology of the whole films are quite confused, and I think it was kind of, it's often pointed out that they use, as you mentioned already, about Slumber Party Massacre as a flashbacks for this, but it was also I went under the name Nighty Nightmare 2, because it was a Nighty Nightmare was the original title for Sorority House Massacre 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the film actually got a cinema release in 1992, apparently. It was released on home video under 3 titles: Hard to Die, Sorority House Massacre 3, Hard to Die, and as Joseph said, Tower of Terror. It says, the film was released direct to video in 1990, but it was released theatrically, yes, in 1992 under the name Tower of Terror, and received an NC-17 rating. I think that's everything else has already been said on it. I don't think there's anything else. There was it looks like the title was registered in 1987, which suggests that it was kind of in gestation for a little bit longer than we might have imagined. But everything else I've got, I think you've already said. So so that's Hard to Die. Anything else, Nathan, you would like to add?
I will say at one point, the doctor in the movie, his name is Dr. Newton, and at one point Don says he hasn't called back, and Jackie says, who, Fig Newton? And I just think it's important that we all know that Fig Newtons are a popular sandwich cookie.
Well, see, that's another reference I wouldn't have got.
Have you never had one?
No.
Or seen one?
No. Have you,
Erik?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch any of that because there was such a severe echo on it that I couldn't make out what you were saying.
Oh, I said that at one point they reference Fig Newtons. Do you know what that is?
No, I have no idea what Fig Newtons are.
Oh, Joseph?
It's a cookie.
Oh,
okay.
I like cookies.
Well, I wouldn't call it a cookie. It's more like some kind of doughy substance with like fake jam stuffed inside of it.
Sounds even nicer.
I was going to sing the theme song, but I'm not going to.
Oh,
I got it from The Simpsons.
Go on, Nathan.
Ooey gooey, richy chewy inside, golden flaky tender cakey outside, but the inside and the outside, is it good?
Darn tootin'.
Doing the Fig Newton.
Here's the tricky part.
Was there something about a pig in there? I don't. Yeah.
It was like a jingle for Fig Newtons.
It's Homer's mother, played by Glenn Close, sang it to him when he was a child to put him to sleep. So there you go.
I think we've either hit a new high or a new low on the podcast. I'm not sure which.
This will be our last. This will be our last episode.
Trust me, it's a new high today.
Well, if you think it's a high, you think it's a low, why not write in and let us know? So that even rhymed. Okay, well, let's move on to some feedback. So this is how to get in contact with the show, and we'll be back in a second.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Yes, please do get in contact with us and let us know how we're doing or how we're not doing. And have we got any feedback this time? I know I've got one here.
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple of the Facebook hard to die thingies.
Shall we do that first?
Sure, I can read these. There's only 3 of them this week. Tom Virtuoso says, Orville Ketchum's reveal of the basement keys scene still holds up, especially the reaction. Shame he never made it to space. Also, the squeaky balloon sound during the gratuitous shower scene never gets old. Chris Schroyer says, I've often wondered what Orville in orbit would have been like. And finally, Mike Alishan says, no Sorority House Massacre 1 and 2 first. The first time you guys are going out of order. Sad face. And that's all the Facebook feedback we have this week.
Okay. Well, thank you for that feedback. I think there's always, I'm not saying, because I obviously love Hard to Die, but sometimes we get very little feedback on a film. I think sometimes that may reflect its quality. Do you think?
Yes.
Yes.
God, the last episode, I felt like it just kept going and going and going. All the feedback we had.
What did we do in the last episode?
It follows.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, who would like to go next?
Okay, I have one here.
Okay.
And this is from Steve Yacht. And he says, hello, really enjoyed the recent Supporting Characters podcast with J.A. Kurzweil. That was the podcast, of course, you were interviewed on, Justin, a few weeks ago. You touched on a lot of the reasons I love the work he and his fellow co-hosts do with Hysteria Continues. When I first discovered the Hysteria Continues several years ago, it was a thrill to find people who shared my love of these films. But after a while, the real reason I keep tuning in was the conversation and chemistry of the hosts. The Hysteria Continues is the first podcast I ever started listening to, and it's easily still my favorite. So thanks for the extensive interview, and I'm looking forward to checking out your other episodes. And of course, I'll keep listening to the Hysteria Continues as long as they keep recording. Take care, Steve Yacht.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Steve, even though it's mainly a love letter to Justin. But
well, thank you, Steve. Yes, I mean, I'm sure Erik.
Yeah,
Erik. But Erik, you've done stuff. You've kind of been on other podcasts, haven't you? The retro movie.
I was on Meep's podcast a few times. Yeah. The thing with the Meep podcast is that his knowledge is so vast that they end up discussing sort of like 20, 30 movies per podcast, and my spectrum of knowledge would be much narrower, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I do the Made for TV Mayhem podcast
with Amanda by Night.
Mm-hmm. You know, me, her, and Dan Budnick, who was with Bleeding Skull. We do it. It's like once a month. We'll do an episode. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it should be plugging anything else you're doing extracurricular.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what it is. Obviously, Nathan, Erik, as long as it's legal.
Yes. It's not to tell me. Nathan is the one who does the illegal stuff.
Wait a minute. No, you do illegal stuff because you download movies all the time.
Hey! That is absolute sweeping generalization.
That's just his friend does that.
My friend does that.
So does mine.
I think it's because the term released in Dublin now has gone into the common vernacular.
Yes. It's the one with Baby Jesus.
Yeah.
So, right, well, thank you for that. Shall I go? I've got one here. So it said, hey guys, I wanted to give Joseph props for mentioning the greatest Tales from the Dark Side episode, Seasons of Belief, on last week's show. I saw the Seasons of Belief episode when I was way too young and spent the next decade being traumatized by it. I was curious, do you four have any movies, books, TV shows that terrified you at a young age? So anyone want to take that question? What terrified you at a young age, Erik?
Being bullied by skinny goths was a constant fear.
Yeah, but that's not a TV show or a...
okay, no, I did see a made-for-TV movie called Cruise into Terror. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was made for TV in 1978, and I must have saw it around that time. And it's cheesy as hell, but it scared the bejesus out of me back then. And also watching Halloween 2 for the first time when I was 11.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got Argento's just leaped up on top of something. So keep going. If you hear any crashes.
I mean, I was very easily scared as a child. So, I mean, Jaws scared the bejesus out of me when I saw that on television at age about 5 or 6. So, what about you, Joseph?
Well, if we're talking about television, I'd say maybe there's one from released on HBO and the USA Network called The Dummy, and I think it was in 1982. I think I saw it in 83 or 84 when I was a wee little lad, but yeah, it's basically a woman in her apartment being terrorized by one of those I guess ventriloquist dummies, and there's a moment where she's like behind a door and the dummy like peeks under the door, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe this short is on YouTube if you want to look it up. But
this isn't the short. This isn't from Trilogy of Terror, is it?
No, it's something completely different. I believe it's on let's see. Yeah, there it is. It's on YouTube. It's called The Dummy. It's from 1982. It's a short. It's like 7 minutes long. It was released HBO and USA and a couple other networks, like between shows. They used to release like little short segments, and this was one of them, and it terrified me as a kid. I haven't watched it in years. I'm actually interested in going back to see if it holds up, but I may do that after the show. But yeah, look that up. It's called The Dummy. It's on YouTube, but that's one that terrified me. And another as funny as this may sound, is Rawhead Rex. Now, obviously, this movie's not scary in the least now, but you know, in '86, for some reason, that movie just kind of creeped me out, and I'd always like, you know, if I'd be walking like to a friend's house, like kind of late at night down the road or something, I'd always like fear walking by the woods because I'd be afraid, you know, Rawhead Rex would be in the woods or something. But that's just a couple. That's just a couple.
Yeah, that's even worse than Nathan crying over the victims in Sleepaway Camp 2.
Yeah.
One other one I remember, Justin, do you remember I think it was a British series called Armchair Thriller?
I was just going to say that, yeah, I do.
Yeah, where just the opening credits where the shadow sits in the armchair, it used to scare me a lot.
I think we mentioned that one before, haven't we? Because it used to be on at lunchtime as well. And so on weekdays, so if you're ever ill from school back home, and there'd be Pebble Mill, which was kind of like the... I always remember they interviewed the Lutzes from the Amateur for Horror, the real people, and they showed some of the photos from the investigation of the little girl at the top of the stairs with the black eyes or the white eyes. I can't remember which one it is, but I remember that traumatized me when I was a kid. And then it was followed by Armchair Thriller, which was always had like, sometimes it quite often be supernatural stuff, and that kind of traumatized me. So it almost kind of made me want to stay home from school just to be scared by that in the 70s. But I mean, there's been loads of kind of ones. Was Cruise into Terror, was that the one with the mummy, the sarcophagus on board, or is that a different one?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And anytime I focus on the sarcophagus, there'd be sort of eerie choral chanting. This is how I remember it.
Yeah. Have you not seen it recently? Not
recently, no.
Oh, you should.
But I imagine it's cheesy as hell.
Oh, it's hilarious! Absolutely brilliant. I kind of I downloaded it when we went to Berlin last year. We purchased a copy and watched it. With a few German beers, but yeah, because it's got Susan Day George and Christopher George in it, isn't it?
Linda Day George.
Linda Day George. Sorry, yeah.
Bastard!
I'm pretty sure they're in it, but anyway, it's really good fun. It's really cheesy because the sarcophagus breathes as well, doesn't it? Expands, and yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. So I think Scream Queens Patrick did an episode.
They did, yeah,
back.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth a watch. But who hasn't said? Has anyone?
Nathan hasn't.
Oh, Nathan, what's
I just can't think, because I mean, everything scared me as a kid. I was scared by everything I watched that was horror movie related. I mean, Slumber Party Massacre 2 terrified me. So, I mean, there's nothing that I guess in particular that stands out because I was a scaredy cat.
Gosh, okay. Well, there you must have lived in perpetual state of fear.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Every time you saw a lady with big boobs and tight lingerie, you must have been petrified.
That terrified me.
Yeah. Right. Well, that was. We're only halfway through this email, but it goes on to say, also listening to you guys talk briefly about the Demons films last week was possibly the highlight of the episode. Can we just pretend they're slash movies and get a Demons double feature episode, please? I imagine Joseph will choose that at some point in the future. Am I right, Joseph?
Hey. Some kind of crack against me, Justin?
Well, I was just saying that sometimes you play loose and free with the rules about what is a slasher movie.
You watch your goddamn tone. No, actually, if I could justify them a little more, I probably would pick them. I love them, but I don't know.
Well, who knows? When we're all 72 or whatever, or drawing a pension, maybe we'll get around to demons at some point.
That's next week for you.
Eric's evil laugh. Right, he carries on and says, the last little bit, he says, one more thing. I know you've had Meep on the show, but would you guys consider doing an episode with both Meep and Ben as a sort of Hysteria Continues retro movie love mashup? I know 6 people might be a bit of a clusterfuck, but I think it'll all get gelled together pretty well. Thanks again for all the great episodes, Brandon Miller. And I think that's an intriguing proposition.
Yes.
I mean, if you're listening, Meep and Ben, then if you'd be up for a special episode at some point in the future, then I think that would be good fun, as long as Skype doesn't implode at the thought of 6 people talking at once.
Yes.
Speaking of things that terrified me, I just got sent a picture of some wild-haired lady on Facebook.
Oh, God, has Erik just sent a photo? Oh, God, yeah.
Yes. An amazing photo. Toya and Lamal together at last.
Looks like Toya and Justin.
He does look a bit like Justin, yeah. But
anything like me. But I can't believe Lamal must be perhaps 50, and he looks like some stroppy teenager, doesn't he?
He does
a bit, yeah.
Like a face like a slapped arse. Why?
Hey!
I wasn't talking about Toya. Well, maybe I was just looking at... Why is she holding an orange?
I actually cannot answer that. I do not know why she's holding an orange.
Well, in the Breaking Bad universe, oranges symbolizes death. So maybe she's a Breaking Bad fan, and she's going to die soon.
No, don't die, Toya.
She looks a bit like some kind of everyone's favourite drama teacher.
She is my favourite drama teacher.
So kind of wearing it's like some kind of weird caftan and looks like something she's made out of macrame.
Yeah, well, you're all going to be wearing that now for the summer because she's a trendsetter, and you're all going to be carrying oranges. Right,
okay, well, let's see if that happens. I won't hold my breath. So, any more feedback from anyone?
I believe that's it.
Okay.
No.
Well, that was a relatively short one, as they usually say to Erik.
Hey!
So...
they do not.
Do they not?
No.
Are you sure? That's not what I've heard. That's not what I was told in Manchester. So...
They wouldn't know. They've never seen it.
Why? Do they need a magnifying glass?
Harsh and hurtful.
Thank you. Right, okay, moving on. So, next time, I think we'll be back, and we're going back to listener picks, and as it's my choice, and I have, it's basically, if you can imagine that a list of the most amazing slash movies ever made, well, just forget that list, because what we do have is a list of listener picks, but on there are some gems, and I'm actually, this is going to be moving from this into the next one quite nicely, because going from Tower of Terror, we're going to Tower of Evil, the British proto-slasher from 1972, which is very, very slasher-esque. So,
2 slashers in one.
Exactly, 2 slashers in one. So I've been looking forward to covering this. So we'll be returning next time. We'll be up a tower with some teenagers, overage teenagers, being bumped off one by one on an island. So join us for Tower of Evil next time. So anything else we wanted to say?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, well, say goodbye to the good people. And what are we playing out with, Joseph?
This is Women Are Like That by Mr. Moderation, the end credits song to Hard to Die.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Au revoir, creeps.
Au revoir.
Is that your joke of the week?
Yep.
Wow, it fit nicely.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I don't need loo breaks these days. I don't know what's happening to me.
I never have needed them. But of course, I go right before we start.
That I'd like you to explain, Your Honor. Shut up, Mr. Kennett. And Erik, then I said his eyebrows are flaky.
Ah!
And then I said something crazy, and it seemed to wrap up a whole story.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the only problem is when we get to the real shit.
Yeah.
And there's still some shit left.
I already know the next one I'm picking.
Oh God, what is it?
But anyway, just because I do the edit, so I can edit the bits to make me look good and you look bad, which is always nice.
Boo.